The views and opinions expressed on Real Talk with Horace Sheffield are not those of WADL TV 38 or Adele Broadcasting Corporation.
Giving you real talk, real talk, real talk. Take a walk down this path through Detroit, This is real talk, real talk, real talk. Real issues straight from the heart, Giving you real talk, real talk, real talk. Take a walk down this path through Detroit, This is real talk, real talk, real talk.
Welcome to another edition of On the Line with Reverend Sheffield. I'm here at the Sheffield Center. Really pleased to have a person with me that's known me pre-teen.
Yes, sir.
And that is Rosevelt Lawrence, who was a brother of Jerry Lawrence. Grew up on Horton.
Horton Street, Detroit East Side.
Yeah, I thought I'd spring it on you because I think you'd probably be shocked that I would
Yes,
remember that.
That's a last from the
Yeah.
past.
Well, our families were connected. My sisters went to school with you and your brother Jerry.
Yes.
When I was, 12, 13 years of age, I looked up to you guys, and most particularly to Jerry. I mean, I almost have chills thinking about, him taking me under his wing and all the things we shared together. We're going to talk about Jerry in a moment, but I want to talk about, our families. One of the most memorable things about Jerry, I think it was a 55 green Chrysler. Was that what it was? Or?
It was.
I think it was your daddy's car or was
It was my car.
It was your car.
I had purchased that car from a fraternity brother's father,
Okay.
Hercules Jefferson Sr.
Oh, yeah, I know
The
Hercules. He was on the board here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I left to go to the military
Okay.
and left it in the hands of Jerry.
Right.
And so he had a good time with
Well,
it.
Jerry let me drive that car. I was working at the time at the Shell station on Madison and Gratiot. And I remember the family very well, African-American family. I was fixing flats or whatever. So, I got some water hoses put on it. And I mean, I was in another world driving that big, heavy, green
It was wonderful.
Chrysler. Was it Imperial or something?
Um,
Maybe 300 or something. I don't know.
yeah, I can't really recall, but it was huge.
So anyway, I mentioned Jerry. Jerry Glenn Lawrence has passed. Valiant fight. One of the most formidable efforts I've ever seen in anybody dealing with cancer as long as he did, and just never seemed to succumb to negativity. But Jerry really was one of my first mentors. I think you know that. And, being with my sisters and just taking time with me. I mean, I looked up to Jerry Lawrence,
Sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my family, my parents, Rosevelt Sr. and Nettie Lee Lawrence, 10 children, 2 elder sisters, and then 8 boys in a row. And I'm the eldest of the 8, now 7.
So you actually older than Jerry?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And then Jerry and the others. And we had a ball.
Yeah.
Our dad was our first softball coach. He taught us all how to play table tennis and pool. And so we dominated at the local YMCA, Northeastern YMCA over on Cadillac. Again, before Horton Street, we lived on Belvedere and Gratiot.
Okay.
Chandler Elementary, Barber Middle School, then high school, Cass Tech, Kettering, he was my man.
Yeah.
He was my
You
man.
know what I remember him. I mean, he was so carefree, and that little chuckle and laugh of his. He just. I don't ever recall a time, not one time, that I ever saw him sad or not happy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Even, I came to the event at Northwest Activity Center before he passed. I mean, even in the most tumultuous trial of his sickness, Jerry was still eschewing and offering positives to other people.
Yeah, he turned the energy that he had, because as you can imagine, behind the chemotherapy treatment and then a specialized treatment where they were trying to, kind of deflate the pancreatic cancer and medical trial. they loved him at the University of Michigan
Right.
Hospital. He became part of a volunteer PR team. They literally put his picture with the therapist on one of the elevator doors. So when folks, before they got on the elevator, they saw Jerry and Miss Carol, and he just enjoyed doing those kind of things.
Well, Catherine and Levon Sheffield, my sisters, who I just left in Georgia, you know, they probably would not like me to say this. There's some things that they exposed me to that weren't the best,
Okay.
but they also the responsible party for meeting Jerry Lawrence. And as you know, my mother died and my dad traveled a lot, so our house was often the place where we gathered and had fun, and you know, and Jerry was very much a part of that, and that's how I met Jerry. I met Jerry through them. I mean, you know, and literally, I say that Jerry, you know, I mean, and you can validate it or refute it. I mean, Jerry was like my big brother, man.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like my big brother. Yeah, he was the first older male, aside from, you know, my grandfather. My father obviously had a big influence on me, but he was the first older male. He was at Cass.
Yes, sir.
You know, he was popular, he was fun-loving, he was outgoing, he was smart, and the nature of the relationship he had with my sisters and others, unlike today, was paternal. It was, you know, I mean, now guys are friends with girls for sex.
Yes, sir.
Back then, they were just friends to be friends.
Friends to be friends,
Yeah,
that's right,
yeah.
right. Well, he had that kind of character. Jerry also was a guy who I hadn't known very many people before he did this or since. He was one of the first blacks that I knew that hitchhiked across America.
Wow.
He walked trails and he hitchhiked and he worked at summer camps, the YMCA summer camps, and he had that part of him as well that not very many people did.
Yeah. You know, we can reminisce about a lot of folks, and I'm doing this story because, again, I gained great inspiration from Jerry from the time I met him. He had a variety of careers. At one point, I think he was like vice president of Kelly Services. I mean, he did well for himself. And then he lived right across from where I worked out, right there on Milwaukee, I think it is, for quite a long time, and we would really connect. He had his own style of dressing.
He did.
You know, he was eclectic in his dress.
To the end.
Right.
Yes, sir.
He kind of reminded me of a blend between Felipe Wynn and George Clinton.
Yes, he back in the day, he truly had the maxi coats and the ball head.
The mod. He was mod, man. I mean, he was mod. I mean, and because of that, I mean, I wore bell bottoms, and you know, he carried a little. You know, they carried the sack before folks were carrying purses. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, again, as you can imagine, this brings back some good memories for me. I miss him dearly. We were fraternity brothers, and you know, attended the same church, worked in one and two of the same ministries in our church, and
You guys are kind of inseparable. I mean, I know you had other siblings,
Yes, sir.
but you and Jerry are the two that, you know, come to mind with me. You know, you two were, you know, two peas in the same pot.
when I started my career, you know, he was always there, just you know, as a supporter, and at some point I had talked about quitting and going into something else. He says, "No, don't do it." He says, "I want to learn a little bit more about what you do," and he literally went to a citizen police academy.
Okay.
He wanted to go learn about what really the police does in communities like Detroit, and that was helpful and knowledgeable for him. And as we talked, you know, I had a change of heart and stayed there over 31 years.
Yeah. And then you went, of course, to DPS CD and.
DPS, I worked in a prosecutor's office for Kim Worthy for 4 or 5 years, and need to go sit down, but I'm still working.
Old soldiers
Yes, sir.
don't die, they just fade away. So we have about a minute and a half. I want you to take a minute of that, just giving your fondest recollection of Jerry Glenn Lawrence Sr., and then I'm going to say my last few words about him as well.
Well, what comes to mind is we moved from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and we moved initially to Inkster, Michigan. Then we moved to Detroit. My dad worked at Cadillac Motors. My dad got both of us jobs at Cadillac Motors. I lasted there a week because it was some hard work. And Jerry lasted for about 2 weeks, and then he decided to start moving around. But we just did pretty much everything. We were brothers, and I miss him. But toward his end of his fight, he became such an activist, relevant to sharing information about pancreatic cancer, and men doing early checkups, and everybody gravitated to him. Channel 7, Channel 2, PanCam. And just watching him do that, knowing he was sick, he knew he was sick, till the end.
Yeah. He knew he was sick, but he didn't display sickness. He continued to display a sense of being a champion, a sense of self-centeredness. There are a lot of excuses we make in this generation, Roosevelt. You didn't come from the best place, but you were the best people. I mean, your father and mother put stuff in you that made you all responsible for yourselves. And I consider Jerry to be, as I said, my first mentor and a man among men. And anybody who wants to be a good man, a man who is someone that should be revered and honored, you want to be like Jerry Glenn Lawrence. And Jerry, we miss you, man. We love you. I'm almost tearful here as I think about you. And God bless your soul.
Hello, my name is Paris Simpson, and I'm the co-host of Real Talk with Reverend Horace Sheffield, also serving as the president for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, representing the city of Detroit. And I'm here with Reverend Sheffield. We're really excited and happy. I'm happy to have the opportunity to talk to you about what is going on with our folks here in the city as it relates to mental health. So we know, mental health conditions, they don't discriminate based upon your race or your gender. And maybe not even your socioeconomic class, but African American people, just according to the Office of Minority Health, have like a 10% increase in their psychological distress, especially during this very difficult time that we're dealing with now. And so I just wanted to talk to you about maybe some of the ways that we can work together to help our people in the city.
Well, I think the first thing we've got to do, which is true for any even substance abuse, you have to admit. You have to really come to grips with what's really going on. In our community, with most of these miserable maladies, we're not prone to be honest about them. A friend of mine that I'm dealing with now drinks every single day when they get home from work. And when I confront them about the fact that they drink and progressively during the night, if I talk to them at 7, they're coherent. If I talk to them at 10, you don't understand the word they're saying. That's a little bit different than mental health. People are really reluctant.
I mean, they're reluctant for multiple different reasons, right? So there is like distrust of the system, of the psychologists that are available for them. There's the fact that maybe it's not available to them. In our communities, mental health services are not available as they should be. There's also the fact that some people are not able to just identify what their symptoms or struggles may be because it's been something that they've been dealing with for so long. So for myself personally, I'm a person living in recovery with co-occurring behavioral health disorders. And what that really means to me, so at 25 years old, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And it was shocking, but not really, because I'd always been experiencing highs and lows. And what the diagnosis did for me was kind of allowed me to be able to look at, my behavior over the years and how, I've been impacted by this disease.
So that's important. I'm going to cut you off. The important thing is we have a sense that sometimes we conceal, but we know ourselves that we're a little bit different. That there's something going on. I mean, even with my diabetes, for example, I know when my blood sugar is not the way it should be. I control mine now mostly with exercise and what I eat. But the thing about it is, which is we just did a call on Fan the other night about stigma. The thing about it is, we're so concerned about how other people will view us once we embrace whatever it is that's wrong with us.
Especially if you don't embrace it in the way that other folks may deem appropriate. Like for myself, as a person in recovery, I have an approach to recovery that might be different than your approach. I know you might be a 12-stepper. I'm not 100% sure. But I, approach recovery from a harm reduction perspective, and it's different. So, I mean, it can also create barriers when you do open up and begin to tell people your story, and then they have kind of a way of which they set, like stigma, they set a way of which you're supposed to recover. But recovery is possible for everybody, and it's different for everybody.
And the big issue that we still deal with is most people believe that there's some innate inequity or something unusual about us because they can stop doing this or they don't experience that and don't understand why we do. So they don't really see it as a medical diagnosis. They don't see it as a physiological issue that we're battling. They see it primarily. And by the way, I really came to grips with this, to be honest with you, more so not because of my alcohol and drug addiction, but wrestling with my weight. Because most of my life, Paris, I was in great shape. And then, I blew up to 360 pounds and could not control my weight, or my compulsion to eat. And I thought maybe God was getting me back because I used to make fun of fat folks. But it really helped me to understand. Although I knew I couldn't control drugs and alcohol, but this one was much different because even though I yielded to the fact that, I was powerless, it was a much greater compulsion that I had experienced for drugs and alcohol.
I mean, so that's different for everybody as well. Like, for myself, as a person living with bipolar disorder, there are certain drugs that I do have to take to manage my mental health.
Absolutely.
And so,
Now, you're the host, but I want to ask a couple questions. So all of this is to help people figure out what they need to do. So with what we're talking about, maybe you should help people understand, how do we know that we're dealing with a compulsive obsessive disorder? What do we do about it?
So that's why we have NAMI in the city of Detroit, and that's why I'm so excited to be a part of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, because NAMI helps us to understand the warning signs. You do the QPR training here at the Detroit Association of Black Organizations. I know you guys have the suicide awareness training, but just being aware, having knowledge about what's going on with your family and friends, being able to identify the signs. Are they gaining weight? Are they being,
Are they withdrawing?
Are they withdrawing
Sleep
from
all
you?
day,
Are they
every day,
Do they have aches and pains that the women talk about? I have these pains, continuing aches and pains. They may be dealing with mental health conditions. Just being able to identify and help your folks. And then being connected with recovery community organizations like NAMI in the community that help you educate your family members about what's going on, that provide you with, the resources that are necessary.
So you should tell people about NAMI now so they can connect. Great organization, great resource. I was blessed to get an award from them, so we're pleased with what you're doing. Maybe people can benefit from the information you give them.
Absolutely. NAMI is available in the city of Detroit. Our website is namidetroit.org. Our telephone number is 313-567-6939. We're actually hosted inside of the Northeast Guidance Center over on Connor, 2900 Connor on Building A. And we have resources available. We have community support groups for people living with mental illnesses that want to be amongst their peers. We have family support groups for people who have children or loved ones who are dealing with mental illness and need to talk about that. We do provider education, so we'll come and talk to your organization about how you can be a more culturally competent organization surrounding mental health for your consumers as well as for your staff. And so there's a lot of stuff that's available.
You're just a bastion of energy. Just tell people how they connect with NAMI.
So you connect with us. You connect with us on Facebook. We're NAMI Detroit, NAMI Detroit. You can connect with us on Instagram. It's the same thing. Our website is namidetroit.org. And if you see me, I'm always available. I'm the face of NAMI Detroit here. Yes, me.
All right, I think this is the end of our segment. You want to tell people anything before we go?
Well, just that there's hope in recovery, that I know that this is a difficult time, that especially being an African person in diaspora living in America, it's hard, but you can make it, and we're going to make it. And we have hope and we have one another.
And that's Real Talk. Thanks for reminding me the name of the show. We'll be right back after this. We thank God for Paris and the wonderful work she does. Well, welcome to another segment of Real Talk. This is Reverend Sheffield. I love to tell people about folks who've come up with an idea and turn it into a reality and really make it work. We have Dave Bishop with us today, who had Dave's Choice Awards. Now it's Detroit's Choice Awards. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, tell people a little bit about who you are, Brother Bishop.
My name is Dave Bishop. I'm a veteran, I would say, entertainment, special event promoter. I've been doing events, large-scale events in the city of Detroit for the last 25, 30 years, some signature events. I created the Ultimate White Party we do at Shane Park every year, then the Ultimate Black Party, and from then I started venturing off and doing more social and community events.
So that Ultimate White Party was yours. That's a big event that they had at the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater is what it's called now, yeah.
It's been going on for 17 years now. Yeah.
So how has the COVID-19 or this pandemic affected your events? Because your events are based on drawing people.
Yeah, and I guess that's where the creativity comes in, because I know it's been a hardship on a lot of promoters such as myself who engage people to come out and meet and mingle, that's not the case at this point. So we have to come up with ways that we still can practice social distancing, but still enable the people to have a great time, in which we have tried to capture that this year with the Detroit Choice Awards by going virtual with the event.
So what was the idea behind creating originally Dave's Choice and now Detroit Choice?
Okay, well, Dave's Choice came about. I kind of got the idea. Steve Harvey did an award show called the Hoodie Awards. It lasted about 3 years, and he kind of lost focus. So my 50th birthday came up, and I came up with an idea. I said, what can I do for my 50th birthday? So I said, well, I want to recognize people that's been poured into me for the last 50 years. So I invited 50 friends, and I made my 50th an award show, and I called it the Dave Choice Awards. People came out. I had it in Atlanta, Georgia, 2017. People came out. It was a tremendous success and a hit. So I kind of picked up the idea and kept rolling with it. So I did it in 2018. Now I start recognizing more people that's doing things within the city. Now it's kind of taking the legs of its own, and now it's what we have today as the Detroit Choice Awards.
So now I know one of those years you honored my daughter.
Yes.
And I know you've had events in Dearborn. I mean, just kind of walk us through some of the things you've done and some of the people you've awarded.
Last year, we did President Pro Tem Mary Sheffield for the leadership role what she's doing in the community. We recognized some Pepper from the Broadway, some of the veterans that's been pouring into the city, that's committed to the city, and that's dedicated to the city. We want to recognize this, that we don't give up on our city. And I just love the force and the influence that the people around are pouring in Detroit. So therefore, we decided to put it on the stage, and BET has their own award show, the Grammys have their own award show. Now Detroit has its own, but we recognize our own in the broad.
Yeah, I got aware of you because you're a master promoter. You kind of whet people's appetite up until the main course. So you were putting a little bit out there here, a little bit out there. You're doing the same thing now, which we'll talk about this year. But just very visual. I mean, just very gala. I mean, you had a great turnout too, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this year we expect more on the doing viewership. We expect to take the event beyond Detroit now with the capabilities we have now with the live stream, which is in different countries and which is in different states. So not only that, we capture the eyes and ears of our own local people, but of a nation worldwide now.
So we're talking about Detroit's Choice Awards, formerly Dave's Choice Awards. Tell us some more names of folks you've honored, then we're going to talk about this year. We want to talk about all the people you're trying to honor this year.
The format consists of this. We have three bases, three tiers. One is the local base, where we ask the Detroiters to call in or go online and vote for their favorite local barbershop, their favorite local hairdresser, their favorite local caterer, their favorite local daycare. And then the people in Detroit are engaging and calling in and voting online, and they're voting on the website, and they're telling us this is our favorite, not the best, but these are our favorite.
Those are give us all the categories. You have restaurants.
I have restaurants, barbershops, beauty salons. I have male vocalists. I have bands. I have anything you can think of that you are engaging in Detroit. We probably had it or have it.
And we're going to let you have an opportunity, I think, still to vote for this year, right?
Yeah, well, the voting ends June 12th, which is actually tomorrow. Okay. We will have the list tomorrow online at DetroitChoiceAwards.com of the top 3 in each category who will go on September 19th and compete for the award for the favorite.
And how do they compete?
They compete by going online and voting for their favorite.
Okay, so then when this airs on Sunday, which will be after the 12th, you can go, is there a website where they'll see the finalists?
The finalists will be on DetroitChoiceAwards.com.
DetroitChoiceAwards.com. Go and vote for your favorite barber, your favorite, DJ, all of those people with whom you engage on an entertainment basis, and select the top one who will then be awarded. Yep. So what other categories you have?
Well, then that's the first tier. The second tier we have, which we call honorees, our icon honorees, and that consists of this year. These are the people who has served or has been a long time influential in the city. Which we have Dan Gilbert this year, Lisa Phillips, who's the principal of Cash Tech High School. We have Jalen Rose. We have Detroit Bruce. We have gospel singer Kiki Sheard, and those will be more of your iconic who our community, who has served and who has been a pillar in the community.
So now people have to vote for me too, right? Am I in the voting category? What category am I? Okay, all right. I'm just trying to gin up my votes, man. If I need some votes, I need to get them now,
Well, there's no vote necessary for your category. We have a category called the Vanguard. And the Vanguard Award was kind of unique because all that has happened during the pandemic and the COVID-19. People were unsure. The leadership was uncertain from our country. Then we had people such as yourself that stepped up to the call. And these people are like the gatekeepers of the city of Detroit. They made sure they went out their way with their resources. They went out their way with their connections to make sure the citizens were well equipped, citizens were well informed, and made sure possible that the burden wasn't shift from the citizens to the citizens to the gatekeepers. That's the Vanguard Award. So we got together 9 of the Detroit's top elite community leaders, and we're honoring them with this Vanguard Award for their outstanding leadership and commitment to the city as well. And congratulations for making a list.
One of the things about you showed up and hung around when we were doing testing and food distribution. I want to thank 315 and NSO and the Renaissance Chapter, the Links UAW, and others who sponsored the testing, because when we started testing, they weren't doing community testing. So we're glad that you came and participated. How do people get in touch with you? I want people to be able to know where those nominees are, how they can vote, how they can witness the actual award ceremony and all of that.
All social medias, also across the board, we're located under Detroit's Choice Awards. We'll have the website, DetroitChoiceAwards.com. All the information is there. If you have any questions, email info@DetroitChoiceAwards.com. We can be reached.
Detroit, this is real talk, real issues straight from the heart, giving you real talk. Take a walk down this path through Detroit, this is real talk,